أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم. Since last couple of weeks we are discussing a subject pertaining to LGBTQ++, and but I have seen, this is my observation, maybe I'm not correct, that here at the masjid and in the evening discussions also, people are not very much interested in it. They don't, I have failed to convey the importance of this matter. So I think today I will just do two things. One is that I will recapitulate in a very briefly in a couple of minutes what we were discussed so that we have the background. And then I will just show the headlines, topics which are in this subject matter, which I wanted to discuss, so that one ultimately knows that what is the magnitude of the problem. It is not just that we are discussing L, we are discussing G, we are discussing B, or we are discussing T. So I'll just expose so that it's like when you buy a book, in order to look at its importance, you look at the contents, you may look at the introduction, or you may look at the conclusion. So here I'm just going to give you the content so that one understands that what is the importance of the subject matter. So far we had discussed that in recent history, at least in the modern history, till we can trace its roots in the modern history, I'm not going into the ancient. Since Renaissance failed on two accounts, it did not provide freedom to women, and it continued even after the Renaissance and even after the French Revolution. The very strict ban on homosexuality continued. They were punished with the punishment of burning at a stake. So these two movements continued: freedom of women and equality of women and freedom of sexes. And that ultimately was supported by some of the international events. For example, when gold was found in California, gold rush, it is called gold rush, then in a very small span of time, in a very small town or a village of San Francisco, 300,000 people, single men, they migrated as labor, as migrants, as miners, as investors, and they were all single. And from there, cross-dressing and drag performance and certain other things started, and that promoted homosexuality. And at that time, 1849, middle of 19th century, it became the hub. Then certain other events happened, that during Second World War and before Second World War, for the Second World War, for example, America recruited 250 single women, young women, as a women corps. And then after the war, many people returned from the empires because the Western empires, the European empires had collapsed. Like, for example, Britain, France, they had collapsed. So the people returned to their countries, and most of them to the urban areas, and wealthiest of them, or you can say who could afford, to New York, because New York was the center of the power which was emerging as superpower. So ultimately, New York City took over San Francisco, and New York City became, and it is today, the global hub of LGBTQ. But till then, it remained a movement for homosexuality and equality of women. But another turning point came in 1969, when New York police, law enforcement agencies, raided in Christopher Street the gay inn called Stonewall, in, and then they fought back. And there were clashes for 6 days, and that gave boost to them. The entire world came behind them. I say entire, it does not mean that everybody, but the world came behind them. And then from there, the movement picked up its force. But there are certain other turning points. After the 69, still it was a small movement, but in 1970s it started gaining movement. In 80s, LGBTQ as LGBT, it started momentum. It became from homosexuality to LGBTQ. From that onward, we have to understand the meaning of every letter, its importance, every color, new dictionary which has come up, a new methods which have come up, the colors, the flags, the symbols, and everything. So I'm going to expose these things to you so that you know that what is the magnitude of the problem. This is the background, and now I'll just expose you to the headlines. At some point, I may also show some other things, but for example, I mentioned World War II. This I've given as a background, but I'm going to tell you, and also I had mentioned that the main object is to demolish the family. Why family? To demolish the patriarchy, that man is the head of the family. Why? Because they say unless the wali, the head of the family, is demolished, the equality of women cannot be achieved. And that in that respect, they developed a philosophy, and that philosophy also needs to be understood. And for understanding that philosophy, the new definitions and which have been attached, for that you need to understand a couple of definitions or terminology. They differentiated sex and gender. So now we have to understand the new words which have been added to it. The difference between sex and sex orientation. And then the difference between sex and gender. And within gender, gender identity, gender role, gender expression. Gender expression. And the difference between sex orientation and gender expression. And the difference between transgender and transsexual. Now, these are the things when they discuss, they confuse. And our ulama, most of the people who discuss them, they don't understand these meanings, binary, and so many other things. So I'll just expose these topics to you so that you kindly conduct your research. But I'm in this discussion today, I'm just highlighting the importance, the magnitude. This is not just we have discussed, it's something else. I'll come to those headlines. I'll show you the headlines. These things I've already mentioned, but I want to show you the headlines. Some of very meaningful male and female sex symbols which are used. And in many places with my friends, I've seen they discuss with the children where they don't know what is the importance of this. For example, you must have seen this symbol. This has a meaning. It conveys some message. It will become clear as I go further. What about this message? It has a message. Every color, every icon, everything which is shown here has a message. Then as we go further, look at this message. Do you see the icons? The same icon is coming a plus, and then there's a circle. It has a message. It is an icon. It has a philosophy. And then the spermatozoa running after the female ovum. Now, these are the websites. You can find these things from there. So many, but I'm just giving you. And then you must have seen this also. This one icon explains the entire philosophy of freedom of sexes on which this philosophy is developed. two females interlocked with plus sign. This represents females. Female sign, two females, and two males with arrow sign, two males interlocked, and then four. These two pairs interlocked together. No taboos, no prohibitions, no need of a family, no husband and wife, all free. And this is the basic representation you must have seen. If you have not seen, you must have seen, but ignored. It appears every day in one or the other form. As we go further, I'll show you, then you will see that how it is spreading. This I had a bit explained, but I'm just going to show you the topics. It's a sex-based doctrinal system. I've been emphasizing this, and every word has a sexual meaning and interpretation. If you discuss even with Muslim doctors, they will give you the theories which have developed 1963 from till 1950s. Homosexuality was completely banned in America, in Europe, punished by death and burning. But today it's all open. How it has happened? And then 1963, the idea of gender identity first time appeared in literature in 1963. And today it is everywhere, 1963. In 80s, LGBT started emerging. It is everywhere today. Now, and here I've given a lot of references, but you will be, I don't think you should be surprised, but this is something which surprises that how big this system is. Again, show you some symbols, colors, and other things. They separated biology and sociology, and they made sociology completely independent of biology. And psychology is so separate from psychology. These terms have appeared only recently. These are not historical terms. Now, some of the worrying things are that at the international level, World Health Organization uses this terminology. It has recognized and accepted. World Health Organization, WHO. And here, whatever I have produced, it is their language, how they define it. I'm just projecting before you. This all definition, it is a long definition, but I have just reproduced and placed it before you. World Health Organization. And then Council of Europe Convention. It's not an ordinary matter. In the beginning, I said I'll not be able to make any dent. Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, and that includes other definitions pertaining to the related subjects. Then European Institute for Gender Equality. They have accepted it. This is their language. I've given it in inverted commas. So where you are facing a big challenge, it's not ordinary thing. There are no holds barred. Everything is free. But more fascinating, more things are coming up. Turning points, I've explained some of them in a nutshell. 1969, raid on the gay inn, Stonewall, gay inn. And there's one thing, one study shows, very important. After this, AIDS appeared. And the statistics, their surveys show that almost entire leadership of homosexuals, this is not my finding. I've not done this. I've given references here. I'll show you. Entire leadership of homosexual world was decimated. They died. But who remained? They came back with resilience, reorganized, revitalized, and they adopted everything as their symbol of courage to face this, and they came out with more courage. This is what the studies show. When this AIDS appeared, after that, struggle against AIDS provided them the strength and the resilience to come up, restart again. And they became more popular, they became more obvious. They created bathhouses, even YMCAs. What is YMCA? Young Men Christians Association. They are doing good job. Many good jobs they are doing. They provide youth hostels. They do a lot of social things, social works. These are very good things which they are doing, but this also, in a way, helped them at many places. I've stayed in this. In Vienna, I've stayed in YMCA. In Paris, I've stayed in YMCA. In other European countries, and there you will find that how the environment is. Now, in cities, as I said, development, urban areas, cities are these are the findings. The cities, the urbanization provided boost. Significance of symbols. I will not explain everyone, just I'm exposing to you that there's, look at it, how many symbols are there. Ale, its explanations, and you know how many words are there to define different aspects of behavior, performance, function of lesbians. How many terms are there? They define the different aspects of lesbian. It's not just ill. Ill, there are so many other words. And each word defines a separate aspect of a lesbian. These words, this is not final. Look at this list. The list goes on only for lesbians. Within ALE, LGBTQ 167, and within this ALE, so many numbers. How to identify? Not possible. It's not an ordinary thing which we are discussing. First time I became aware of it in 2004 when I became Secretary, Ministry of Population Welfare, dealing with NGOs. I saw some of the literature of the NGOs that what they are spreading. You will find NGO for domestic violence, for women rights, for equality. And then when you go into the literature, I used to read them. I had to remove them. And then Ministry of Population Welfare, Women Development, Human Rights, Ministry of Health, I brought them together so that they coordinate and work together. They understand. Just one L. And then G, homosexual term was then, instead of homosexual term, gay was used. Gay included L also. But then when the feminist movement became strong, then they started showing L separately. So it became GL, but now it is LG. And then the B was included, bisexual, who are interested in both. And then look at B. Then look at T. When you discuss, they will confuse transsexual and transgender. These are two different things, but they will discuss together. They will always place transsexual, transgender, intersex there before, and they are victims. This society has rejected them. We have done a wrong thing. We don't understand it. That's why we've rejected T and we rejected I, and they have gone to them, we accept them. They place them at the front and they exploit them, and that is their commercial commodity. Now, there's no end to this expansion. You will find other words, other letters also in this Q. There are two Qs, not one Q, two Qs. Then I've mentioned I, and then A. Their main strength today, the strength of success is A, you and me. I repeat it. You are included, I am included. A stands for allies, stands for asexual, and A also stands for allies. It is included in LGBTQ, A, Q, Q. Why they have included us as a silent majority who don't understand, who buy it, who accept it, who ignore it. They think that we know everything. I say you know everything. And this is, I think, the dilemma when anybody thinks that I know everything. We stop thinking, we stop learning. The moment we say this is A, included. A stands for ally, person who actively supports LGBT advertisement, buying the products. I think I'll show you. We are party to it. And this is the main strength. Politicians, doctors, the doctors discuss with me and they ferociously discuss with me in support of LGBT. And then other supporters, cisgender, cissexual, these are the terms we must know. The 2S, P, pansexual. We may discuss these things sometime. Pansexual people refer to who are gender blind. Why are you interested in man, or why are you interested in a relation? He's gender blind, he's innocent, he doesn't know. You can't punish him. He's gender blind. This is a term accepted in medicine, in law. Accepted. Gender blind, he's blind, he doesn't know. That's why he's doing this. And then this is plus. Plus can add anything. You invent any term and you can add it plus. And then this goes on increasing. And HRC. HRC stands, otherwise the HRC you know from United Nations Human Rights Commission. But they have adopted similar acronyms. People don't understand. Here HRC means Human Rights Campaign. Human Rights Campaign of whom? LGBT. So when you say HRC, be careful. HRC, Human Rights Commission, belongs to United Nations. That HRC, Human Rights Campaign, belongs to LGBT. And people quote and they don't know the difference and say they will quote from HRC. I've quoted from HRC. I've studied their literature and glad. This is another term. Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. If you somebody takes this to the court, he's defaming, then this organization is there. They take up. They have advocates, they have attorneys, they have money. And these are other things, details. I'm not discussing those details. I'm just showing you they made an alphabet soup. They call it soup. So hot and sour soup. These alphabets. And we go further. As we go further, you will find mu. Then U, C, TS, 2S, Z, SA. These are terms. And then straight allies. Those people who are not themselves LGBT, but they are their allies, like all of us. Straight allies. Heteronormative. These are the terms. Then you look at P, H, O, then H, H is usually used in India. It is used in India. Then we have added G, BAG at the end. They have brought it at the end, and then new terminology. In Canada, there's a lot of debate. They don't want to use LGBTQ. They have a different terminology. Trudeau is particularly the target because he has changed the terminology. Australia has changed the terminology. They have changed the placing of the alphabet and the terminology in the acronym, and there's a debate. Why this two A's has been brought before? There's a debate. Trudeau is the target. Now look at this new. Pride uses LGBTQ, TTIQQ2SA, but these new terms have come up: MS, M, WS, W, and usually doctors use this. Medicine, they use these words: MSM, WSW. Then a new word. Look at this: MVPFAFF. One gets confused. And this is the explanation of MVPFAFF. Look at this. These are included. These things are included in this. And the rainbow color, rainbow. It is a meaning. It has a significance. Innocent children, they use it. They use rainbow. They use their colors. Dissent and deviant is also there. Within their community, there's a dissent. I'm not discussing this now, but sometimes if you need, we can discuss it. Another terminology: asexual, aromantic, agender. Every change, look at this: transgender and transsexual. I say at the beginning, I said that we have to understand the difference between these. And here I've explained that what is the difference. Every explanation is here. If you like, if you will like, we can discuss it. And then we come to some interesting parts of it. This is psychology. SGM, GSM, GSRM, new terms. If you are a psychologist, you are a doctor, you don't need to know these things. And the GSRM, current situation. What is the current situation in the world? This is, I think, important, on which I may give some couple of minutes if we can give. This is very important. There are different laws, penalties, and even incentives worldwide in different jurisdictions, from legalizing homosexuality to same-sex marriage. Entire world is now under attack. Recently, Pakistan has passed law for transgenders. It's a good law, but being presented in a different way. Transgender, only T. I say I and T are the victims. They have passed law only for T. And our ministries have worked on this because they first segregated. Our strategy was first segregate each term, understand. Don't pass law on LGBT. Understand. So they picked out T. And they have passed law on T only T. But you will see they've used the language of the LGBTQ, which they use in their dictionary. If you read that law, you will find that it's not the normal grammar. It's not the normal grammar. And they have followed that language. Now then, Netherlands was the first country to allow same-sex marriage in 2001, very recently. And today, you find it in many countries. How rapidly it is moving. Movement has come up in Iran. Movement has come up in Turkey. In Turkey, many times there have been clashes. They have broken the demonstrations in Turkey. In Middle East, it is spreading. And you must have seen in Pakistan women taking out procession without clothes. Now, see, Netherlands was the first, Belgium in 2003, and Spain and Canada in 2005. Within 4 years, 3 countries joined. And again in South Africa was first African country to legalize same-sex marriage in 2006. Every year expanding. Simultaneously, this is a very hateful thing, which they adopted there, and then we may discuss sometime what is called the corrective rape. Corrective rape, it is defined. This is their definition from these definitions. October 2009, Assembly of Church of Sweden. Church of Sweden. Assembly means when they join together, the priests, the bishops, the leaders, they join. 2009, very recently, 2009, voted. It was not a fatwa of one mufti. Assembly of Church of Sweden, Christianity, they voted together, gave blessing, made a dua, made a blessing for the homosexual couples, calling it matrimony, marriage, their marriage, homosexual marriage. They gave blessings. Oh, Allah bless them. It's not an ordinary issue. Our children are not able to understand what is behind. Our women are not able to understand what is behind. Kindly wake up. In your families, I'm only requesting you only to the extent of your own families, your own self. Take some time to understand this and make it understand to the children, to the women in your house. If you want to save the house, the family. It's not an ordinary thing that I'm crying since last 3 years. We go further, and then Iceland became first country to legalize same-sex marriage through unanimous vote in the parliament. Now, not only it is expanding, but the intensity and the force is expanding. First, it was one country, they just legalized it. But here, then we find the church by assembly, by vote, and then the parliament unanimous. Iceland. And then we go further. These are milestones. Argentina became first. I've only taken the first ones. There are many others. I've just taken one. Argentina became first country in Latin America to legalize same-sex marriage with Supreme Court ruling. It was from the Supreme Court here, not from the parliament. Supreme Court ruling in 2015, 8 years back. US became 17th country to legalize same-sex marriage. Why I'm showing this? Look at the speed. And not only the speed, but the way the momentum is building up, and it is increasing, not only expanding, but it is increasing horizontally and vertically, both ways, in all directions. And then July 22, same-sex marriages are legal nationally in 31 countries between 2015 and 22. In 2015 were 17. In 2022, there are 31. Double. How can you stop it? You can't. Why Allah had sent the angels to Sodom, to the people of Lut? Australia, in National Survey 2017, 61% of respondents supported legally recognizing same-sex marriage. These 61% are not themselves LGBT, but they support it. 2003, Supreme Court of US struck down, it is struck, not struck, but it is struck down sodomy laws. I said Sodomy laws were there even after Renaissance, even after French Revolution, even after Second World War, even up 1969. The city police of New York, they raided the Stonewall gay bar under the law because there was anti-homosexual law. Now that law was struck down in 2003, making consensual homosexual legal. Anybody. In Tennessee, they made an effort. Now look at how powerful they are to ban homosexuals in 2006. I've given a quotation, but they had to reverse it. People, entire world, they stood up against them, and Tennessee had to do away with the law. 2006, they could not success. And then don't ask, don't tell law. This was a law in the army, particularly in military, that if it is happening, don't tell anybody. Don't ask anybody. If they are involved, they are doing it, let them do. This was a law. Then they will not be punished. Now, in 2012, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity, they passed law for them. They cannot be discriminated in housing. They cannot be objected. I told you I was living in an apartment here, one-bedroom apartment I could not afford. So it's one-bedroom apartment. One day, one of my neighbor came from the adjacent apartment, and he introduced himself. And while I was talking to him, another man came out from that apartment, and then the first one introduced me that meet my wife. This was my first encounter. Then in the university, I was introduced to the vice president of the university. He introduced his wife to me with a big mustache and a beard also in the university. Okay. And then in 2018, this was allowed. And then in 2020, only 2 years, 3 years back, Supreme Court ruled that 1964 Civil Rights Act protects gay and transgender people from workplace discrimination. Workplace discrimination. It was 2020, but Trump had issued an order, executive order, that discrimination means when somebody discriminates somebody, that he will not be employed because he is gay or something like that. But sex orientation is not the discrimination. Discrimination on the basis of sex and gender, yes, that is discrimination. But discrimination on the basis of sex orientation, that is not discrimination. But that law has been reversed when Biden came. This is the legal battle of laws going on. These are subtle things, but our communities doesn't know this when they go for vote. And then I mentioned how this. Then they invented a pride flag, and pride flag has done a wonderful job. In 2020, Council of Europe Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity, along with another European Court of Human Rights, marked 70th anniversary of European Convention on Human Rights. Human Rights Convention was passed 70 years back. And that convention was being celebrated by these two big international organizations, Council of European Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity and European Court of Human Rights. What they did, they focused on human rights celebration, human rights. They focused on progress made in equality for LGBT persons. Now, it's not a question of equality of women. Now the terminology and the concept has changed to equality of LGBTQ. That is why I started. You will not find these things in the books. That is why I started from Renaissance and French Revolution, women equality, and now it has come to LGBT equality. On in Europe, and then history of concept of gender. I will not also go into these details, but I'll again come because I want to complete quickly, just to give you the enormity of the problem. There are people who have done very important research work. It's not only that I have looked at one book or one thing or one reference. In a bibliography of 12,000 references, 12,000 references, I've given only a couple of them, few of them. 12,000 references on marriage and family from 1900, one full century, entire 20th century and part of 21st century, 1900 to 1964. They've included others also. The research is continuing. But up to 64, what happened? The term gender does not even emerge once. In the matters pertaining to marriage and family in the world, in the literature, in the legal literature, the word gender does not appear at all. In the court decisions, in the laws, does not appear at all. It started appearing from 1964 when Robert gave the new terminology, gender identity. It's so deep. If you face a problem, go to the depth. Go to the depth. This word was not used. 12,000 references they have studied one by one. There's no such word. Not only this, let us go further. We say that we are devoted people, we are working hard, we are moralists, we are pious people, we have piety. But look at the work people are doing. Analysis of more than 30 million academic articles. 30 million, 3 crore articles. They analyzed their titles from 1945, Second World War. I've been mentioning Second World War as a milestone in this history. From 1945 to 2001 showed that uses of the term gender were much rarer than the word sex. Gender was not separated from sex. In these 30 million academic articles, this is not my finding. And you remember kindly, first lecture I had said they separated sex and gender definition. Sex, biological, gender, social construct. You put it in the search engine on the internet, and it gives you the definition, and we amana sadakna, we accept it without understanding, without going into detail. The search engine, the AI, ChatGPT, or anything, they give you the answer the way the algorithm has been built in it. It is on the basis of the algorithm that they give you the reply. They have no wisdom. It is the algorithm. Be careful. When our children are searching, they find these answers and they feel amana sadakna. And we also accept. Are we scholars? Are we researchers? We always feel high on the basis of our own ignorance. I feel elevated on the basis of my ignorance. I know everything. I'm not ready to listen to anyone. Uses of gender were much rarer than this. And then I had said that they removed it from the grammatical category. At that time, it was grammatical category that they removed it. Gender became noun, not adjective. I had mentioned this in the first plan. This is from here it emerges. You have to go deeper into it. And then uses of danger Uses of gender today, vis-a-vis sex, they're outnumbered. Everywhere you find it is being used in social sciences, arts, and humanities. And this is not my research. I can't take credit for this, that I have scanned, I have gone through 30 million articles. There are teams, people are working who are worried. They're working. It was in 1970 that the feminist scholars adopted term gender as way of distinguishing socially constructed aspects of male-female differences, not sex, not biology, not psychology. Social construct, gender, 70s. From 80s, LGBT started spreading rampantly. But this was in 70 that the feminist movement, they brought it up. In 1993, Food and Drug Administration, FDA, 1993, I've tried to cover almost all the aspects which I could understand and bring into focus. There's a very huge literature. FDA started using gender instead of sex. FDA. This is a small thing. People will read the literature, FDA has approved this, we have done this, but they will not understand the difference. You have to be sensitive. And you can't be sensitive to these things unless you yourself study. That is why I say study at least one book every month. But we don't study one book in 1 year. But we don't book one book in an entire life. There are people. And still they take a stand. And then later in 2011, FDA reversed its position and began using sex as they realized that the medical treatment is on the basis of the biological construct. You cannot give gynecological medicine to the male or the male medicine to the female. Androgen, you cannot apply to the woman. Testosterone, you cannot apply to the woman. It has implications. And then legal definitions, 1999 review article proposes legal definition of sex. Look at this. Legal definition of sex, not biology. Legal definition. Now, on this basis, you claim Social Security, you claim taxes, you claim everything. And then courts. No, grammatical basis. I mentioned this in the first lecture. These are the details. I'll not go into those details, but I will. I'm just exposing then the gender role, gender expression, gender role, gender identity. These are different things. And then these are explanations. I'm not going into explanations. I hope I may conclude it. Oh, it's about 45 minutes. Gender identity and gender roles. No, I'm skipping that. I want to show you the enormity, but I want to leave it at a point so that when we pick up next time, we at least know something about gender expression. These are details. Kindly bear with me. Now, the human rights, United Nations, they've adopted the principles for them. And those are very interesting. I've given them in inverted commas. It's not my language. That what they say. Social construction, constructionism, homosexual. What is the meaning of these terms again? Okay. New terms, gay, trade. I want to leave it. Lesbianism, explain. It's science, it's sociology, it's psychology, it's biology. It's how the simple has been complicated beyond explanation. I think we will start this. I'm leaving it for the next, but I'll just show you that what we will discuss so that in the meantime, you may look at it. What is that simple, which has been complicated? I want to leave it on this so that I don't waste your time. 107 gender identities. These are references. Now, this is the list, A to Z list of gender identities. I'll give you the entire list. What is under A, what is under B, what is under C. So we will, Allah willing, start with this 107 gender identities, consuming entire alphabet, consuming maybe the time comes that we will not find even the numeral, how to number it. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك يا ربنا تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وبطاعتك عن معصيتك وبفضلك عن من سواك. اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك أعلى كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us. Shower. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us. Shower us with your blessings. Increase our knowledge. Grant us forgiveness. And reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves garden from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. Oh Allah, we have our son Ma'raj, our daughter Aisha Wani, our brother Javeed, and the wife of our brother Anis. All are sick. Oh Allah, grant all of them and all of the others full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, we know that there is no cures but yours. Oh Allah, grant them a cure that leaves no ailment or injury. Oh Allah, grant us the power and the ability that we may be grateful for your favors that you have bestowed upon us and our parents, and that we may do righteous deeds that are pleasing to you. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, we ask with every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. Subhanallah wa bihamdih, adada khalqih wa rida nafsih wa zinata arshih wa midada kalimatih. Subhanallah wa bihamdih, adada khalqih wa rida nafsih wa zinata arshih wa midada kalimatih. Subhanallah wa bihamdih, adada khalqih wa rida nafsih wa zinata arshih wa midada kalimatih. Wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu as-salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.